The Christmas Thief, a cautionary Christmas-tide tale. Written by Peter Richard Adams. Now we're home from the choir. Sit down by the fire, and I'll tell you a tale rare told. A fable quite frightening, with snow, thunder, lightning, and chills far worse than the cold. As it's Christmas Eve, and sleep won't receive me soon at the thought of tomorrow. To balance the pleasure, please be at your leisure for a tale of deep Yuletide sorrow. There once was a boy who knew not the joy that we share each year in December. A simple young lad, with no mum and dad that he could recall or remember. In old London town, he worked up and down the chimneys, the stacks and the flues, in conditions so poor and outside the law that these days it would make the news. But he was no sweep, made a far meaner keep when forced to pop down the stack. When he got to the floor, he'd leave through the door with all he could hold on his back. Yes, he was a thief, though it's my belief there's something you must comprehend. This poor, tiny sap worked for such a cruel chap that he was so scared to offend. A beating he'd get if he didn't pay a debt each day to this blighter, this cur. So, through all the pinching, the robbing, half-inching, a smacking he'd hope to deter. Now, 1,000 miles north, Father Christmas, of course, felt life becoming quite weary. Still loved to labour over gifts to be savoured, yet he felt so down and so dreary. Castle Christmas was lonely and not very homely, with only him living there. And sometimes at night winds blew out the light, which frankly gave him quite a scare. So, one Christmas Eve, as he gave the big heave to get his sack up on the sleigh, he swiftly resolved that, although he was old, I shall make a new friend on this day. Our thief didn't like to steal on a night that should be silent and holy. But his master said, "Do it, or you're dead. And believe me, I'll hurt you quite slowly. Get down there." Ah! So, pushed and fallen, the thief landed sprawling at the base of the dark, cold chimney. Dazed and confused, with no time to lose, he looked for what gold he could see. "Oh, please hold me tight. What a glorious sight! I can hardly believe my two eyes. There's a glorious spruce growing inside this house," which clearly both shocked and surprised. "And here, on the table, I swear on the Bible, a feast such as I've never seen. A goose and a ham, a good leg of lamb, the meaty meat meal of my dreams." And sat on the mantel, amongst trophies and candles, were 101 cards or more. These people were loved. The thief knew in his blood, and he made to leave through the door. But he had to work, or be called a shirk. "I'll beat you from now till New Year." So the toys and the gifts he started to lift, his eyes filling up with salt tears. Distracted was he, meaning he didn't see the jolly fat man at the fireplace. A shock he received when the man bent a knee, saying, "Boy, what's wrong with your face?" "I!" The thief was afeard, yet despite his tears, he hid with the skill of a sneak. "Behind the tree, quick, where a fat man can't fit, but from which I can still peek. The man wore all red. Danger, that said. He'll punish me if I'm not wary. Nothing. Then he's here. From where did he appear? And that beard is really quite scary." He sat still and tight, in the hope that this night the stranger might just go away. But, "Boy, you must answer, you sneaky young dancer, and until you do, I shall stay." "Okay then, old man. I am what I am, a thief and a bounder and cad. I'm coming out, and for all you may shout, remember I am but a lad. So keep it in mind that not all the time a person can choose who to be. I do what I must to not break the trust of a man very scary to me."
"Oh, poor chap," said the beard. "It's worse than I feared. You are far younger than guessed. But explain your face. It's a filthy disgrace. At Christmas you should look your best."
The thief drew to full height. It was quite a sight, for he barely reached the man's tum. He had to be brave, if his neck he would save, so confidence hit him like rum. "I'm dirty is all, and crying has called some grime away from my face. But believe me, sir, that within a year the filth will return to its place. Little Thief is my name, the one and the same, young man who writes to you yearly. But you never replied in all my short life, so what do you want with me now, Beardy?"
"I know you," said Christmas. "You're on the dark list of all the children so bad. Yet I see from your weeping and the way that you're speaking that this fact makes you quite sad. Here's a deal to make, and I hope that you'll take me up on this offer rare made. Will you come and assist my work on the lists, and I'll make quite sure that you're paid. You can muck out the deer and help brew my beer. You can even assist with the gifts. And I truly know you there in the snow shall give the North Pole quite a lift."
The thief thought but once, for he was no dunce. He knew a good thing when he saw it. "Yes, yes, kind sir, I'm in, as it were. But if master finds out, then I'm for it."
"Don't worry about him,"
said Noel with a grin.
"That fellow is rather a cyst. For 25 years, that horrid old cur has been atop my bad list. Now let us away. We haven't all day. The whole world is waiting out there."
"White light, white heat, the soles of my feet feel like they're floating on air." Suddenly out, on the roof of the house, where 8 strong reindeer waited, was also the boss, so terribly cross, a meeting clearly quite fated. The thief stood and trembled, his wits reassembled. Was it over before it began? But when all seemed doomed, a great shadow loomed. Tall, true, and sure stood the man.
"I've no time for naughty,"
said Santa, so haughty, his voice booming, deeply aloof. Then there was a cry. Could the cruel master fly? No, Santa kicked him off the roof. Ho 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 ho, ho 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 ho, ho 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 ho. Father Christmas, he laughed, it was such a gas, ho 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 ho.
But chuckles aside, we must still travel wide. There's so many presents to post. For good children abed have in their head dreams of what they want the most. Away!
Working like mad, this man and this lad delivered the world all their gifts. They had so much fun, the adventure begun, and toys for all on the good lists. Then, at the first light, Christmas turned right and steered the sleigh to the north.
Let us go home, for our time has flown, and you have proven your worth.
Onward they sped, the thief filled with dread. What had he let himself in for? Such cold and such snow, how the wild winds blow. In his mind, was he really sure? The castle, such a sight, that to some could cause fright, a dark fever mare of the soul. Foreboding, it seemed, quite unlike the dreams that poets give the North Pole. Dark walls, high and solemn, some standing, some fallen, had allowed the snow to get in, while in shacks outside, elves lived and died, neglected, poor and so thin. And then came a lurch, as the deer they searched for a safe spot to land if able. And far down below, the elves in the snow prepared hay and straw in the stables. Safely aground, Christmas looked down to ask the young thief,
"Are you hungry?"
"I am that, kind sir, but admit that I fear the clothes that I wear are not worthy for sitting at table, although I am able to eat any horse you provide. In fact, I'd eat two. Yes, that I could do. So empty are my poor insides."
"Have no fear, boy. Your present's no toy. I've spotted you're wearing black felt. So, a suit tailor-made is for you this day. Merry Christmas, and thanks for the help."
Handsome he looked, with his shirt neatly tucked, a fabric so thick he looked fat, and sat right up there, on top of his hair, a marvellous green floppy hat. After their tea, Santa said, "Come with me. There's something I wish to show. But for you to see, we must take this key and head deep, deep down below." So down they went, through cellar and vent, through security, modern and old. What I show you this night is the true force of right that splits the bad and the bold. Down there in the vault, they came to a halt in front of a table of ages. Cobwebs and dust, covered wicked and just, within its leather-bound pages.
"This book holds the list,"
said Christmas with a fist.
"It splits the good from the bad. The list says no sin. The naughty can't win. Although this can make me quite sad. All children are mine, and it seems such a crime that some I should leave to suffer. But the ancient ones told that true I must hold to this line and act as the buffer."
"You took pity on me?" squeaked the thief. "Don't you see? You've already made quite a change. There must come a time when you alter the line. Modern times demand facts rearranged." Father Christmas looked down and gave a grim frown.
"I'm sorry, my new faithful hand. The world is much older than you, my foot soldier. Some things you just can't understand. When the universe started and matter was parted to create these worlds old and new, there was a song that split right from wrong, and from which I duly grew. I am but a part of the common heart, and I cannot go a-changing. It's not for me to be revolutionary and on the elders' war waging."
With that, he shook as he closed the book, a solemn look to his face.
"No more on this. You've seen the list. Its integrity shall remain in place."
And so, to be brief, Christmas and the Thief became our festive dream team. They laughed in fits, delivering gifts to the good but never the mean. For years they flew and became quite the two, Santa and his helper, young T. The children adored, parents would applaud, their work for them, you and me. Father Christmas was happy, even became chatty. He was quite on the mend. His demeanour less sour. He rarely now glowered. In the Thief, he'd found a true friend. The future looked bright. In his dreams, late at night, the Thief hoped to become apprenticed. Santa could retire and sit by the fire and sport new false teeth from the dentist. The elves would all meet and agree that the Thief was the best thing to happen this decade. To see their man cheerful made them less fearful, and these days they even got paid. But not much. Yet there was one, at the castle still glum, a person who should have been glad. The Thief couldn't forget that sometimes it's debt that can turn a good man to the bad. He knew that not all the people who call others cruel names have bad blood, and some that steal do so for a meal, but would pay if only they could. People can change. He knew there were ways. It's not fair to just write off a soul. So he took pity on those that were naughty to the extent he could in his role. It wasn't much, just a tiny touch of compassion from one who knew how it was to struggle, to strive and to muddle through life when you only have you. For the Thief, it was true, was one of those who could always see good in a person. He didn't believe that humanity could be truly unkind without reason. So the thief did this deed, that all such as he would do for those on the list dire. He'd go to the grate, and, at quite a pace, he'd take all the coal from the fire. Then, each Christmas Eve, when Santa took leave, he'd sneak to the beds of the bad, and, with no one looking, the coal he would stuff in their stockings, so a gift they had. When Santa found out, my word, what a shout! He roared, he bellowed, he moaned.
You can't leave them coal, you foolish young foal. We have to follow the code. The nice receive gifts, and they get the lift that a toy soldier or doll brings. But the bad boys and girls get none of these thrills, for they must atone for their sins. This law has been written since time's own beginning, and cannot be changed when you say. The high and the mighty, Lord Zeus and the 90, have set out the rules in this way.
Oh, please, Papa N, be a good friend,
wailed the thief.
It was only coal. It isn't much, just a small touch to warm a lost winter soul.
Only coal, roared the beard. Only coal? Saints preserved! Only coal! Just coal, he says. The coal that gives heat, the coal that warms feet, the coal that can be swapped for pay. You insane young buck, you're fresh out of luck if you think I'll forgive such a crime. These laws must be met. There can be no let. They're inscribed on the winds of time. The punishment's clear. It will cost you dear. There's nothing on earth I can do.
And he grabbed the thief by his neck, then his feet, and threw him right up the flue. So to his woe, the thief had to go up the chimney, now at the double. Old Santa felt bad as he bricked up the lad, but the thief had caused so much trouble.
The law is the law. Noel is not flawed. Children must do as they're told. Some rules are made, so all can be saved, no matter if young or if old.
In the dark the thief sits, and can still hear the lists being written each year just the same. And he knows in his heart that at the start of the naughty list sits his own name. His moans can be heard across all the world, for these 100 years past. The gales that come with the snows and the mist are his from the first to the last. So, when wind you hear at the close of each year, think on this story. Remember. Consider the thief locked away underneath, December through to December. He shall not return, for children must learn to understand what's wrong and what's right. There's no room for error when there are true terrors that seek out the naughty at night. So that is my tale. Please pass me my ale, so I may toast you. Sleep true. If we stay up to banter, we too shall see Santa. And as you well know, that won't do. It's the big day tomorrow. So soon I shall follow you up to old Bedfordshire. But as it's Christmas Eve, I'll first take your leave to sit a while watching the fire.